This tutorial is going to deal with different ways to think about the sample navigation techniques we have at our disposal in sensory percussion. We did this in my sampler overview tutorial somewhat briefly, but it deserves more attention because it's crucial to getting the most out of sensory percussion. If you're looking for more of an overview of the sampler features, check out that sampler tutorial, which I'll link in the description. If you're following along with the SPS file for this video, make sure your kick is routed to channel 1 and your snare is channel 2. You can get the files for all of my tutorials either on my website or my Patreon. So, all mode will play all samples loaded into the sampler simultaneously. This is pretty straightforward, so it's easy to gloss over its usefulness. Mainly, all mode is an excellent tool for sound designing. Take this kick, for example. The 90s low thumpy sample has a characterful attack, but maybe not enough bassy power. Switching to the tuned kick sample, this one has lots of bassy power, but not a very interesting attack. Stacking the samples allows you to get the best of both worlds, and you can blend to taste using the sample-specific volume adjustment. Here I have 3 horn samples stacked to create a chord. I could have just as easily created one sample of this triad, but I would be stuck with a relative level between each voice. Also, keeping each voice as a separate sample, I can be flexible with my stereo image. Notice that I have these second and third samples panned hard left and right. This means that if I pan the whole sampler, I can blend between the voices in real time. Try enabling this LFO to automate that. All mode is not to be taken lightly. I thought it would be cool to create an example that blatantly uses all the sample navigation modes at the same time. The center is in cycle mode. My favorite thing about cycle is what happens when you play a buzz. It's like rolling or strumming the chord created by all the samples. Think of cycle mode as an arpeggiator, except its pace is totally up to you. That's a pretty incredible tool. The edge has the exact same sampler on it, except it's in all mode. This is a nice way to bring in some order to the cycle. The kick has the same sampler on it as well, although pitched down, and it's set to control mode. Control is a really powerful mode, where you can use these parameters to navigate which sample is being played. This comes to life when you map controllers to these parameters. In this case, I'm using velocity from the snare rim to advance to the next sample. An important thing to note to make this controller work, upon mapping to a button, the controller parameters prompt some extra options, pivot and type. You'll want to bring pivot down so that the button is pressed with most any velocity on the rim tip. With this setup, you can move to the next bass note with every backbeat, which is a great way to start controlling a more involved composition. To add some random mode, the next example is just like the last one, but adds a new sampler with a bunch of percussion samples. I find random mode to be best utilized for non-focal point textures. You can, of course, use it as a basis for more important elements of your composition if you're feeling dicey, but I gravitate towards the subtle applications myself. Randomness is a great way to get away from repeatability, which sounds really obvious, but it can be hard to remember to employ it. Used tastefully, random can add a lot of valuable depth to your composition. Going back to control mode, this next example uses center and edge to advance each other. This sort of cross-modulation is a really interesting approach to a composition. Try playing different simple sticking patterns to see what patterns result. A crucial thing to include in this kind of complex setup is the reset button. In this case, I'm going to use the kick to reset both samplers. This gives me a known starting point that I can always go back to. If I find some sticking that results in a melody I like, I can now repeat that just by resetting the samplers with the kick. That's much easier than trying to keep track of where the two sampler cycles are at the same time. Another side to control mode is utilizing the sample number box. Using a continuous control mapped to this box, we can use something like velocity to continuously select which sample in the list is being played, rather than just advancing. In this example, I have 3 samplers, each with 3 samples. Together they outline nice triads, and I can navigate the 3 chords by playing soft, medium, and hard. Taking it up a notch, I'm also using the edge to play these same samplers. Here I set up the edge's velocity ranges differently, creating the opportunity to play some nice inversions. Being this flexible with sample navigation is maybe the coolest thing about sensory percussion. Wrapping up, here's a different way to utilize control mode's sample number box. The kick, snare center, and rim tip outline a triad. Here we're going to use the same LFO to control each sampler's sample selection in tandem. Now you can play these nice arpeggios freely as the LFO takes care of progressing through the different chords for you. I'm a really big proponent of this type of approach. Using external control to create the fundamental elements of a composition, aka the chord progression, frees us up to use all the rad sensory percussion controllers for expressivity.